Hello YouTube, De-bodgery here. So there's a bit of a sketchy setup with my camera. Essentially what I've got here is in the spindle for the ER32 collet, I have an M4 tap. And the sketchy part is not that, it's how my camera is set up to be able to get this shot. I've got Squidward out kind of straggling around the back of the bed to barely balance so I can be focused pretty much right here. So essentially what I've got here is I'm set up for a new hole that I'm about to tap, and I'm just going to bring the carriage forward until the tap just goes right on in, which it does. And then the belt on the grinder attachment, I'm going to be turning that or pulling on that so that the tap goes in a clockwise direction. And while I'm doing that, I'm also going to be putting slight pressure on the carriage assembly so that the carriage kind of follows in with the threads. And it's not very much pressure because I obviously don't, I could probably push the tap right through the metal, right? So I don't want to do that. I just want to put enough pressure on there so that the threads that are in the tap are what's pulling itself into the metal, and I'm just simply making sure the carriage isn't providing any resistance. So anyway, here it goes. And yeah, there's not a tremendous amount of effort. You know, I don't have to, this is, you know, only an M4 tap. I don't have to pull on it very hard. If I did, you know, it isn't going to do anything other than snap off anyway. And there we go. It's just coming through the other side. With this 1/4 inch thick piece of 6061, or, you know, this part down here is 1/4 inch thick, I can just get through before the flutes in the tap clog up. Alright, now I'm going backwards. The same thing, I just pull on the other side of the belt towards me, and I'm putting a slight amount of pressure on the carriage so that basically the threads that I've just cut are doing all the work, and I'm just making sure that the carriage isn't providing any resistance. And there we go, now I'm out. Alright, so let me move to the next hole and brush the flutes off here. We've got junk on them now. There we go. Put a drop of oil on there. Nope, that's a bit more than a drop. Oh well. And go to the next 30 degrees. So 10, 20, 30, and back to 0. There we go. And the same thing. I'm just going to walk forward, get up to that hole, and of course it just goes right in because it should. And then I'm now pulling on the belt to make it turn clockwise and putting a little bit of pressure on the carriage so it just walks in with the threads I'm making. Sometimes it hangs up just a little bit, you know, as I hit like a hard spot in aluminum or whatever. But that's like the worst of it. I guess I could tighten up the collet chuck on the ER32 collet to make that work a little better. Alright, so now I've gone all the way through, and now I'm just going to back out. Now I'm just pulling the other side of the belt to make the whole entire collet assembly, the whole spindle, spin counterclockwise. And of course I'm also putting a little bit of pressure on the carriage to get it to back out again. But yeah, this is super easy. You know, for a small tap like this, you don't need a lot of leverage on them, especially like in aluminum. And there we go. I am out. So let me do that one more time, just for shits and grins, right? So there's 10, 20, 30, and back to 0, right there. All right. And now you can see the end of the tap. The other one was kind of shrouded. Let me clean that off again and put another dot of oil on it. There we go. And then same thing. Yeah, it goes right in. No problem. Well, of course it goes right in. You know, there's literally no reason for it not to. And then I am just slowly feeding the tap in. I put a little bit of pressure on the carriage. And otherwise, this is, I'm gripping the belt. There we go, kind of hung up a little bit. There we go. I'm gripping the belt with my thumb and forefinger, and I'm not even gripping it very hard because it just doesn't take a lot of force to run in an M4 tap. All right, so there we go. Now I'm all the way in enough. I'm going to come back out. Same thing. Okay, and I'm out. So there you go. That's how I am tapping those, holes all the way around there, which there's 12 of them. For M4 threads. I'm literally using the tool post grinder to do the work for me. So that they go in dead straight. Yeah, this thing is coming in super handy in ways I hadn't even considered. I didn't even consider how I would tap those holes until I was looking at it like, well, I'm already all set up for that bolt pattern and that radius. Why don't you use it for holding a tap? So yeah, it totally works. Pretty happy with that. The more I use this thing, the more I'm going, well, damn, this thing is so useful to me in 100 different ways, and I'm just discovering more ways as I use it. Anyway, yeah, anybody's looking to build themselves a tool post grinder and a rotary table kind of attachment, go for it. This is super duper helpful. I can do special feature work, sort of kind of milling kind of a things on my lathe that I never could do before. So pretty happy with how this is all playing out.